What's shaking, my friends? Welcome back to my channel. My name is Shay, and today we're going to talk about what I plan to read in the month of March. So February was quite the month in terms of quantity, but not quality, and you will see that in my wrap up. So I'm very excited in March to be getting back to my fantasy, which is my main genre that I love to read. So goal this month is to get back into fantasy and also read some more off of my own shelves. So it's quite an ambitious TBR. I know that I will not get to all of these, but these are just some ones that I plan to, that I have my eye on to read this month. The first book that I plan to read is Engines of Empire by R.S. Ford. This is a new release. It just came out in January, and it was one of my anticipated releases, and I don't know much about a lot of these books, but I do know that this one is basically following these siblings, 3 of them, and they are going to be heirs maybe, and they are sent off to different factions of this city to learn, to do different things, and they uncover all kind of conspiracies and all of this stuff, and there's some machines involved, and I don't know much else about it, but I'm looking forward to it. But it is a beast of a book, but that's okay because I'm gonna read it. The next book that I plan to read, and this is the longest book on my TBR that I've owned, and so I said what better time than now to get it read, and that's going to be 1,000 Splendid Suns by Khaled Hosseini. And I absolutely positively love The Kite Runner. Love it. One of my favorite books of all time. I don't know much about what this one is about, but of course when I read The Kite Runner, I went out and I purchased every single book that he had out at the time, and this was the only one that he had out at the time. And so it's just set on my shelves. I haven't read it, but I would like to rectify some of those books that have been on my shelves for a long time, because why have them on your shelves if you're not going to read them? So looking forward to diving into this. I have a feeling it's going to put me right in my feels, but that's okay. I'm ready. The next book I want to dive into is one I've been meaning to get into for quite a while, and that's going to be The Wrath and the Dawn by Renee Ahdieh. I've heard so many great, wonderful things about this series. This is a YA, enemies to lovers, fantasy romance. Basically, it follows this king, and he takes a wife every single night, and he kills them by the night is over. So there is our main female character who decides she's done with him. She's done with the way that he treats people, and he's a monster, and she volunteers to wed him. And so things go from there. So she does wed him, and some things ensue. And so I'm interested. This is a duology, so if I like this, I will certainly continue on, because I do own the second in the duology. The next one is one I'm also really quite excited about. I loved this author's first work, and I am interested to get into this next book, and that's Small Favors by Erin A. Craig. This cover is super gorgeous, and I don't know much about this one, but I will read anything this woman writes. It's a loose Rumpelstiltskin retelling, I think. It's some kind of fairy tale retelling, and basically there's monsters in the woods, and there's a village, and they are trying to fight the monsters, and basically it says the creatures are real, and they're offering to fulfill the residents' deepest desires, however grand, for just a small favor. So that's super interesting, and basically our main character is going to have to save her loved ones, her town, and I'm interested. It looks like it could be a really sweet book, but I think it's meant to be kind of a scary book. And then I'm going to continue on with Mr. Harry Dresden by reading White Knight. I think this is the 9th book in the series by Jim Butcher. This, of course, follows our wizard Harry Dresden, and he lives in Chicago, and he goes and fights supernatural magical beings. And so I can't say much. This is the 9th in the series. I'm going to keep clipping away at these till I finish. So they're really quick, easy, short reads, especially if I can get the audiobook, because James Marsters does narrate the audio, and he is absolutely fantastic. The next book that I would like to read is another 2022 release, one of my most anticipated releases in the month of February, and that is going to be Scorpio by G.R. McAllister, or Greer McAllister, I think sometimes she goes by. And this, I don't know too much about this. I've read the synopsis 5,000 times, but I still cannot stick it in my brain. But it is something about there are no more girls being born, and so it kind of plays off of that, and then of course the challenges of no girls being born, and so it makes two kingdoms go to war. I don't know, it sounds fantastic. It just came out in February and it has a gorgeous cover. I'll place it here, and I am looking forward to reading it. The next book that I have on my radar is another February 2022 anticipated release, and that's going to be Hunt the Stars by Jessie Mihalik. I've talked about this book several times on my channel. I did mean to read it last month, but my library hold did not come in. So I suspect that it will come in this month, and I am looking forward to it. It is basically the story of some bounty hunters in space, and this bounty hunter crew has lost its funding. Basically, it's going to have to break up, can't stay together, it doesn't have any money to continue, and the girl that leads the bounty hunter crew, this guy comes and hires her for a bounty hunting job, but he used to be her ex-boss, I believe, and they are enemies, and she doesn't know if she wants to take the job because they will be working side by side, but this job will give them enough money to continue to be bounty hunters. So of course she takes the job, and I think it leans heavily on the romance side, but that's okay. We'll see if I like it. Looking forward to it. The next book I want to read that I've talked about multiple times, been on my TBR multiple times because it is still an arc that I need to get to, and that's going to be When You Get the Chance by Emma Lord. This is a YA contemporary romance kind of situation, which I don't generally read a lot of, but I got an arc of this. I have enjoyed Emma Lord's other previous works and interested to see what this one is about. So this follows our main character, and she wants to be a Broadway star. She's in theater, she's in drama in her high school, and she wants to continue that path. Her father does not want her to continue that path. He's a single father, and one day she kind of stumbles upon an old life journal of his that he has. She's never known who her mother is, but she reads his life journal and she figures out that there are 3 candidates to be her mother. So I think it's her figuring out which one of these 3 candidates is her actual real mother, and what happened and why her mother is not in her life. And of course, the love interest is her drama rival in this story. The next book I want to read is a continuation of Spellslinger, and that's going to be Shadow Black by Sebastian de Castell. This is following our main character, and he gets in all kind of shenanigans, and it's a world where, again, in several fantasy stories, the magic have the power, and then the non-magic are actually deemed to be servants in this world. And so he actually is about to lose his magic. So the first book starts out with, he's in this competition kind of thing. He has to prove that he continues to have magic before he can be turned into a servant. And there's all kinds of different quirky characters and twists and turns. And I really, really like the first book. I gave it 5 stars. So I can't wait to continue on with the next one this month. Then I decided to jump in headfirst into The Wheel of Time. So, The Eye of the World by Robert Jordan. This has been on my shelf forever, and to be honest, it's gonna sit on my shelf forever if I don't one month just decide to, hey, I'm gonna pick that up. And so why not this month? So I have put this on my TBR, and this is the first time this book has ever been on my TBR. So will I get to it? I don't know, but I'm really hoping to. I don't know much about the series. I have not watched the Amazon show, typically because I don't like to watch any shows before I read the book first. And so why not? And once I read this book, it can be off my chest. Either I will like it and I will want to continue on, or I won't like it and I can unhaul it, watch the show, never think about the books again. But yeah, we will see where I fall in this fandom or non-fandom. I am then going to continue on the series that starts with Gods of Men by Barbara Kloss. And that second book is going to be Temple of Sand. In March, the third book drops, so I'm hoping to get this one read this month. This follows our main character who basically has forbidden magic, and she's been exiled to this land called the Wilds. And she basically finds this out when she's 9 years old. She's playing the flute and she accidentally kills her sister because she has the ability, I think, to steal souls, if I'm not like misremembering. And so her father whisks her away to this, exiles her to this place where nobody can find her, because if they find her, they'll kill her. And then she gets kind of found out and people are chasing her and trying to get to her and all of that. And there's magical beings and magical creatures and other characters, and it's a great time, so I highly recommend. Next is also one of my highly anticipated books, and that's going to be The Ninth Reign by Jen Williams. Everybody has been raving about this book, and so why don't I get into it? So I have placed it on this TBR. I don't know much about it. It follows 3 characters, I believe, and there is this city and it is in ruin, this kingdom, and they are maybe fleeing or trying to get out, and there's some people that don't want it to the city to fall. I don't know. It says, not everyone is willing to let the empire collapse, and the adventurers are soon drawn into a tangled conspiracy of magic and war. So that's all I need to know. This cover is stunning, and I've heard a lot of good things about it, so I cannot wait to start this. Another book that has been on my radar for quite some time, and that's going to be The Bone Shard Daughter, and I don't know much about this book at all. This is another book that I've read the synopsis 5,000 times and still cannot remember it, but it has bone shard magic, obviously, and I can't wait to read it. I do own it on my Kindle, and so that's also another owned book off my checklist if I do read that this month. And then the last one kind of on my radar is another one of my new acquirements, and that's going to be The Stone Knife by Anna Stevens. Now, she did write the Godblind trilogy, which I have not read, and so, but I'm really interested in this one. I saw Patrick review it. He gave it 5 stars. I have given several of the books that Patrick has given 5 stars as well, so that's what intrigues me so much to read this. And I don't know much about it, but it says a fantasy epic of freedom and empire, gods and monsters, love, loyalty, honor, and betrayal. I think it follows a couple of warring nations, and then there's monsters involved. So it sounds fantastic to me, and I think the next book in this series is coming out soon, book number 2. Book number 2 is not out yet, but I'm interested in starting this. So I know that I am starting a lot of series this month, but I'm super excited to get back into fantasy. I'm super excited to be reading books that I'm actually excited to read. You have absolutely no idea. Not that February was terrible, you will see in my wrap up, but super excited to get back to my origins, my roots, my fantasy. So leave down below what you're planning to read in March, and I will see you guys later.